Welcome to the Niebergall kitchen. I literally just herded two cats out of my kitchen before we started this video. So we're going to talk protein. The first thing I want to talk to you about is, why is protein so important? There's a lot of reasons why protein is so important and is really a game changer if you're trying to lose weight. The first thing is, protein is going to help you keep your muscle mass, maintain your muscle mass, and help you build muscle while you're losing fat. Because the last thing you want to do is lose muscle along with fat. And here's the thing, when you turn 30 years old, starting about 30 years old, you start losing muscle mass per decade, 5 to 7%, something along those lines per decade. And the great news is that protein is going to help reverse that, and you can not only maintain, but you will be able to build muscle if you keep your protein levels adequate. And that's what we're going to talk about. So that's super important. The next reason why protein is so important is because it keeps you feeling fuller longer. And when you're trying to lose weight, you're going to be hungry. You shouldn't be ravenous, but you're going to be hungry. And protein is going to help carry you through longer. You're going to feel fuller for a longer period of time. That's another huge bonus with protein. The other thing about protein is that it requires more energy to just digest. So when you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to burn some calories, you're going to be burning a few more calories just because you're digesting protein. So that's really why protein is so important for fat loss. And actually, the role protein has in fat loss is a little more significant than it is for muscle building, which is a little counterintuitive. But for fat loss, it is the game changer. That's why when we talk about when you track your calories and you track your protein. The other macronutrients are not nearly as important as protein is with regards to fat loss. So let's move on to, how much protein should you eat? Okay, now let's talk about how much protein should you eat. Now, like calorie deficit numbers and calculations, there's a bunch out there for protein as well. And like anything else, I like to keep things super simple. Y'all know that already. I want to keep this simple, so we're going to do it this way. You're going to take your goal weight and you're going to multiply that by 1. Now, I'm not great in math, but even I can do this calculation. It keeps it simple. It's easy to figure out. Now, if your goal weight is 150 pounds, your goal for protein would be 150 grams of protein. Now, your first thought might be, oh boy, Susan, that's a lot of protein. It's really not. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's not as much as you think. It feels like a lot, especially if you have not ever been used to getting protein in your diet. If you are not used to tracking protein, if you're not used to the amount of protein in foods, 150 sounds like a big number, but you can easily get 150 grams of protein in within a course of a day by doing just some simple planning. Now, what if you don't hit that amount? Does that mean all your efforts go to waste? Not at all. And I think people overestimate the importance of hitting this exactly on the nose. So you don't have to. This is more protein than your body needs to survive. It's a great amount for fat loss, for maintaining muscle mass, and for you to even build muscle. But if you come up short, is that a problem? No, it's not. If you go over, is that a problem? Absolutely not. I think people get concerned that if you go over your protein, you're somehow damaging your body, your kidneys, whatever those myths are. You're not anywhere close to the amount of protein that it would take for you to cause damage to anything. You would have to maybe double to triple what 150 grams of protein would be. And then maybe we're talking a problem. I don't even know how you'd get that much protein in. But not 150 grams for a goal weight of 150 pounds. Could you back that down slightly to your goal weight times 0.7 or 0.8? Absolutely, you could. And a lot of it could have to do with how active you are. If you're more active, it could be on the higher end, less, it could be on the lower end. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but aiming for 1 gram of protein per pound of goal weight is the easiest way to remember it, and it gives you a target to shoot for. So if your goal weight is 150 pounds, you are going to aim for 150 grams of protein. That's the easiest way to remember it, and that gives you a target. And we're going to talk about how some strategies you can use to get to that amount of protein and strategies to increase and how to figure it all out. So let's move on to, let's plan all of this out. Okay, so let's talk about how we can figure out how we're going to reach our protein goal every single day. I've got 2 things that I think work really well. The first one is plan. We have to sit down and we have to plan out ahead of time. How are we going to get the protein in by the end of the day? I like to plan it by meal. Think, I want to try to get 30 to 45 grams of protein every single time I sit down and eat. And how am I going to do that? You have to sit down, you're going to have to do some research and figure that out. But once you get into a rhythm, you'll have go-to meals that you will know how many grams of protein they are in those meals, and you'll be able to frequent those often. And it also, the second thing I want you to do is to create a protein cheat sheet. A protein cheat sheet is nothing more than a list of all the protein sources that you love. You're going to add a column of serving sizes for those protein sources. So if, for me, for instance, my protein cheat sheet has on it chicken, steak, shrimp, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, things like that I frequent a lot. And I will write all of those protein sources down in one column. The next column, I write down serving sizes. And I write down multiple serving sizes for each thing. So for instance, chicken may have 4 ounces of chicken, 3 ounces of chicken, and 6 ounces of chicken. And the next column, I will write down how many calories are in those serving sizes. And then the column after that, how many grams of protein are in each one of those serving sizes. And I go down my list and fill it in the exact same way. So like for instance, Greek yogurt, you could have serving sizes 1 cup and 1/2 cup. You could even have 1.5 cups, whatever. You can make multiple serving sizes for each one. That's super important because we don't always eat the exact same quantity every single time we have those protein sources. So having variety is going to be super helpful. Once you have filled out all that information, you now have this very valuable document that you can plan all your meals around. I still use mine all the time. I don't have to look anything up anymore. I have it in one place. Now you are going to have to do a little bit of legwork, but it's going to be worth every single second of you putting this document together and looking up calories and looking up protein. Plan it all out and sit down and figure out, how can I get anywhere from 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal? And a couple quick tips for that. If you sit down and think breakfast, a lot of people struggle with breakfast the most. And I think you need to think out of the box for breakfast, for protein. I never used to think of having chicken in the morning, but I add chicken to my omelets all the time. I add liquid egg whites to my omelets all the time. And I have taken something that would have been maybe 14 grams of protein and it turned it into 35 without many calories whatsoever. You get better at that the more you practice it. So create your protein cheat sheet, use it every single day to plan out how you're going to get your protein at breakfast, how you're going to get it at lunch, and how you're going to get it at dinner. Now let's talk about some specific ways that you can actually increase the amount of protein that you are eating. All right, so now let's talk about the most common question I get regarding protein, and that is, how can I increase the amount of protein I'm eating? And for some people, this sounds insurmountable. Like, how am I ever going to be able to get 150 grams of protein in? And it's actually a little bit easier than you might think, but I'm gonna walk you through a couple tips that will really help. The first one increase the portion sizes of what you are already eating. So people seem to go to, I have to have another protein source. You don't have to have another protein source. Just make your 4 ounces of chicken 5. Make your half cup of Greek yogurt a cup. Add liquid egg whites to your omelet. So you could use 2 whole eggs and then a half a cup of egg whites. Those are ways that you are increasing your current portion sizes of things that you are already eating. That's the easiest way. And you can increase your protein significantly just from doing that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make as much protein as you can in advance. I use a slow cooker. Very often I will put chicken breasts and a jar of salsa in the slow cooker, turn it on low and let it cook all day. And then I just shred it up. And now I have a ton of protein that I can use for salads, I can use for wraps, whatever I want to use it for, I have it available. Having protein ready to go is really key for this to increase the amount of protein that you're eating. If you have to cook it, prepare it, do all these things on the fly all the time, it's going to be a little bit harder because our schedules are different and whatever, but do it in advance. Your slow cooker could end up being your very best friend. The third thing that you can do to increase your protein is to make your snacks more protein focused. So instead of having some crackers for a snack, maybe have some Greek yogurt with some fruit as a snack. Think protein snacks too. Gets a little bit trickier because they're not as traditional snacks. When I was growing up, I always thought of a snack as like a cookie or a cracker or something like that. You want to think more protein-based snacks if you want to increase protein. So that could be, Greek yogurt and fruit, cottage cheese and fruit, something like that can make a really good snack for low calories. So think snacks as protein as well. And the last thing that you can do to increase your protein is to supplement if you need to. It's always best to get your protein from food first. Always, always, always. You're going to feel better. It's going to stay with you longer. But if you're finding that you're consistently coming up short, a protein powder is a great thing that you can add to everything. It doesn't have to be a shake. I mean, you certainly can make a protein shake. But I add protein powder to oatmeal all the time. So now my oatmeal is thicker. It has a kick of protein to it, a big kick of protein. It's going to really keep me feeling fuller longer. You can have a protein shake. You can make that with milk. You can make it with water, whatever you want to make it with. You can supplement with protein powder. But always try and get as much protein as you can from food first, and then you can supplement. Okay, so we talked everything about protein, talked about why it's so important, how much should you eat. We went with the formula goal weight times 1 as something to aim for, and I stressed the word aim. You may not hit it, you may go over, you may come under. That's all okay. We're keeping it super simple. How to plan and figure it out, some strategies with that, especially creating a protein cheat sheet. And then how you can increase the amount of protein that you eat on a daily basis, some easy tricks that you can do to do that every single day. Protein is the game changer for fat loss. So we want to make sure we are getting enough every day. We want to keep building muscle as we get older. We're already losing muscle mass. Let's not let that happen. Hop on the protein train. Once you get immersed in protein, it'll become second nature to you. So go ahead and give this a shot. Put down any questions that you have in the comments and anything that you might be concerned about regarding protein. Because I know a lot of people get a little antsy about increasing the amount of protein, but let me know what you're thinking. If this is helpful, please click like and subscribe. We would love to have you here. We're going to be doing a lot more of these informative type of videos too. So if there's anything that you would like to hear more about, please let us know. Thank you as always for being here. First might go, whoa, that's a lot of protein. Cut. honey, and get your numbers that way. Oh my God.